Welcome to the Morning Edition Extra. I'm Adelmi Ruiz coming to you from Alaska's News Sources Digital Desk. Thank you so much for joining me this Friday morning. Starting off our top story, a man is dead and another injured after an officer-involved shooting. It happened on New Year's Day, and that's according to Alaska State Troopers, who say officers were called around 11:30 a.m. to a home being destroyed by a 24-year-old William Rexford. Responding troopers say Rexford was experiencing mental health issues and threatening to harm himself. AST says while officers were talking with Rexford, without warning, he ran into the kitchen, grabbed a knife, and then charged toward a trooper with it. That's when AST says multiple troopers fired, striking Rexford and a second man who was inside the home. Troopers say they immediately rendered first aid. Rexford was pronounced dead at the scene, while the second man was taken to the hospital with serious injuries. The troopers involved have been placed on 7 days of administrative leave. The Alaska Bureau of Investigation is investigating the shooting. And Alaska State Troopers have arrested a man for attempted murder following a SWAT situation off Winch Road in Fairbanks Wednesday just before 6 a.m. AST received a report of a man who had been shot. The man fled to a nearby residence and told troopers that 42-year-old Theodore Samsa shot him. The victim was taken to a local hospital and is expected to survive. While on scene, troopers heard gunshots coming from where the shooting happened. The dispatch report states that Samsa barricaded himself in the residence and refused commands to surrender. He allegedly shot several times, including toward troopers. AST says SWAT deployed less lethal munitions, and Samsa eventually surrendered and was taken into custody. Samsa was arrested and charged with first-degree attempted murder. And now it is going to be a very cold weekend in South Central. Meteorologist Aaron Morrison is going to explain why there's a first alert for this weekend. Aaron.
Yeah, that is right. We do have a first alert weather day across South Central. We've got cold weather advisories as well as extreme cold warnings in place across the region. Now, lows of 20 to 30 below look likely for areas across the western Kenai into Anchorage, and then through parts of the Copper River Basin. We can see lows anywhere from 55 to 65 below as we welcome in the weekend. Now, while the valley is not up under a cold weather advisory, you'll also see some bitter cold conditions and pretty much the same impacts, with the potential that we could see frostbite and hypothermia set in within about 10 minutes for any exposed skin as we welcome in the weekend. 45 below in Fairbanks this morning, 24 below in Utqiagvik. We are tapping into some of the coldest air of the season across the state. We still got that high pressure off towards the north. As we look in the upper levels of the atmosphere, you can see that jet stream dropping to the southeast. That's funneling in those colder conditions that we're going to see as we welcome in the first week of 2026. Now, this is going to be a short-lived cold snap for South Central. The interior has been up under it for a good portion of the month, but we are going to see those sub-zero highs and lows staying with us across South Central. Through the weekend, you can see some warmer weather out towards Southwest as well as the Aleutians. This is what we're going to be watching building back in across South Central as we welcome in the start of next week, which will bring a push of some warmer conditions. You can see those temperatures into the across South Central into the weekend will continue to remain below zero. This is where we're going to be watching those temperatures anywhere from about 20 to 30 below, while areas of the Copper River Basin will see even colder conditions. Notice by Sunday morning, some of these darker or these lighter colors you're seeing, as well as those goldish looking colors, that's where we'll see those temperatures well below about 40 below as we welcome in your Sunday. So we're going to continue to hold on to fairly quiet conditions into the weekend. This is our next low building in to the Gulf or to the Aleutians as we welcome in your Sunday and Monday, and that's going to lead to some high winds through the western and central Aleutians. There is a high wind watch that has been issued. Winds of 80 to 100 miles per hour, gusting do look possible as we welcome in your Sunday. But of course, first alerting you this weekend for those bitter cold conditions. Some much needed snow building back in across South Central as we welcome in the start of next week. That's also going to bring a push of warmer air, and it does look possible that as we close out the door on next week, we could see those highs warming into the 20s.
Thank you so much, Aaron. And a man was found dead Tuesday on Pennock Island, an island near Ketchikan. According to the Alaska State Troopers, AST was notified of The man found dead at 3:42 p.m. That's according to ASD dispatch report. The body is being sent to the state medical examiner's office for autopsy and identification. An investigation is ongoing. And a fire at a mountain resort in Switzerland has claimed at least 40 lives, and authorities worry the death toll could climb. According to authorities, dozens of people are presumed dead and hundreds of others were injured, most of them severely. It's not yet clear how the fire started in the bar called Le Constellation, but officials did say that the blaze apparently triggered the release and ignition of combustible gases, creating what firefighters call a flashover or a backdraft. They also told reporters that, quote, "At no moment was there a question of any kind of attack." The investigation into what caused this devastating fire is still in the beginning stages. Alaska's Department of Family and Community Services commissioner is leaving the department to join President Donald Trump's administration. According to a press release from Governor Dunleavy's office, Kim Koval has accepted a position at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Dunleavy appointed Koval as acting commissioner when DFCS launched in July of 2022. According to the governor's press release, Koval laid the foundation for the department, shaping its mission, advancing key initiatives, and guiding statewide policy developments. Deputy Commissioner Tracy Doppling will assume the role of acting commissioner following Koval's departure. Your challenge to Alaska's election system is headed to voters. A challenge to Alaska's election system is headed to voters. Lieutenant Governor Nancy Dahlstrom confirms a ballot initiative seeking to eliminate the state's open primary system and ranked choice voting has been filed. It would also remove limits on campaign donations and disclosure laws. The Division of Elections verified over 42,000 signatures. That's more than enough to get it on the ballot. Alaskans will vote on this proposition on November 3rd, unless the legislature passes similar laws or adjourns before April 20th of this year. Dog kennels at the Fairbanks Boroughs Animal Shelter are at full as of Wednesday. They're all full as of Wednesday, forcing staff to get creative when new pets are surrendered. From fostering out animals into the community to holding specials where they can be adopted at a lower price, staff at the shelter do what they can to avoid having to euthanize. While rabbits and cats have at times reached capacity, this happens more frequently for dogs. Staff say 17 animals, mostly dogs, have been euthanized since July, typically animals that are not ideal for adoption due to medical or behavioral issues.
Euthanizing for space is one of the most difficult decisions we have to make here as staff, because we care about the animals, we get attached to the animals, and that's not a good reason, in our minds. It's a really big decision, and to have to make it because you don't have space is really heartbreaking.
Community members are asked to give as much notice as possible when surrendering a pet, and the shelter is always accepting applications to foster. And the nation's largest city had a block party to welcome New York's new mayor, Zohran Mamdani.
I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of the mayor of the city of New York.
Of the office of the mayor of the city of New York.
He's the youngest mayor to hold a high-profile office in more than a century. At 34 years old, he's an immigrant from Africa. He's also the city's first Muslim mayor and the city's first South Asian mayor. Mamdani was sworn in on the steps of New York City Hall by Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. Very befitting, as both men are progressives whose views run in contrast to certain of today's politics.
When working people stand together, when we don't let them divide us up, there is nothing we cannot accomplish.
During the campaign, Mamdani promised to create a universal child care program, freezing the rent for roughly 2 million rent-stabilized tenants and make city buses, quote, fast and free. Many elements of his proposed plan, Mamdani said, would be paid for by increasing corporate taxes and taxing wealthy residents, and would likely hinge on the support of state legislature and the governor.
Office of the Mayor of the City of New York.
of the office of the Mayor of the City of New York.
According to the best of my
And on New Year's Day, a flurry of new laws took effect in places around the country to start off 2026. They impact everything from SNAP food benefits to online subscriptions. Bradley Blackburn has a roundup of those legal changes.
When the ball dropped in Times Square, millions of Americans got an instant pay raise. In 19 states, the minimum wage increased with the start of 2026. Nationwide, it amounts to a $5 billion earnings boost for workers, according to the Economic Policy Institute. At many grocery stores, SNAP food benefits will no longer cover things like candy and sugary sodas. Restrictions are now in place in 5 states and expand to 18 by the fall, with the support of Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
It's about nutrition, and there's no nutrition in these products.
Some trade groups and grocers say it could increase prices for everyone with limited benefit to public health. In Georgia, a new law aims to help people prepare for natural disasters by opening catastrophe savings accounts that can grow tax-free.
Here in New York, it's now easier to ditch online subscriptions. Companies are required to make the process of canceling as simple as signing up.
Also in New York State, styrofoam coolers are on ice. It's now illegal to sell the chests, which could take centuries to decompose. Hotels in Illinois are now barred from giving out those little shampoo bottles. They're being pushed to switch to refillable pumps. And in Virginia, social media companies are required to limit users younger than 16 to 1 hour per day. But parents can raise or lower that time. Lawmakers say it can help kids.
You see how much it hinders their ability to do well in school, and you see how much it hinders their socialization with their friends.
New habits in the new year by law. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
And new federal changes are also now in effect, could affect Americans' wallets and lives. Social Security recipients are getting a 2.8% cost of living increase. Medicare Part B premium costs are rising almost $18 a month. Pandemic-era Obamacare subsidies are gone as of Thursday, and the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. Meanwhile, this is the first regular tax season with changes in effect from a bill signed in July. They include higher standard and SALT deductions, as well as new breaks for seniors, car loan interest, tips, and overtime. A proclamation out this week delays tariff hikes on some furniture, kitchen cabinets, and vanities that were set to begin on New Year's Day. Finally, the president's travel ban is now expanded to 39 countries. For the first time in more than 30 years, the U.S. has surpassed more than 2,000 measles cases. That's according to new data from the CDC. The last time more than 2,000 cases were reported in 1 year was in 1992. Ongoing outbreaks, including in South Carolina, continue to add dozens of cases each week. And measles have been considered eliminated in the U.S. since 2000. However, the U.S. is at risk of losing that elimination status if cases continue to grow through late January. The United States saw nearly 28,000 whooping cough cases in 2025. It's the second year in a row the U.S. has topped 25,000 cases. Another sign of the risks of falling vaccination levels. The infection can lead to severe illness or death, especially in young children. 13 deaths from whooping cough were reported in the U.S. in 2025, most of them children under a year old. Last year, 977,000 cases were reported to the World Health Organization, five-fold increase over 2023. And the price of renovating your kitchen won't skyrocket as much as originally thought this year. President Trump postponed tariff hikes on upholstered furniture, kitchen cabinets, and vanities. He put them off for a full year on Wednesday, hours before they were set to be implemented. The White House didn't say exactly why, but did indicate negotiations with trade partners are ongoing. Most imported furniture comes from China and Vietnam. The tariff on cabinets was scheduled to hit 50%, while upholstered furniture would have reached 30%. Tariffs on both items have been at 25% since September. And the Commerce Department is rolling back proposed steep tariffs, which were set to take effect on over a dozen Italian pasta makers later this year. In October, the Commerce Department announced a 92% tariff on the pasta. That's on top of the 15% tariff on most imports from the European Union. The newly announced rates would put the tariffs between 24 and 29%. They are set to be announced in March. The Commerce Department says the final rates stem from an investigation into some Italian producers, selling pasta at an unfairly low prices. A Commerce Department official says the decision to recommend lower rates comes after the pasta producers addressed many of the concerns raised in the review. And your mail might not get postmarked the same day you drop it off, and that's important when you need to have something postmarked by a certain day, like if you're paying your taxes or voting by mail. A new rule clarifies that a postmark doesn't necessarily reflect the date the Postal Service accepted possession of it. Postmarks are applied at regional mail processing hubs, but a Postal Service overhaul has eliminated multiple daily trips between post offices and those hubs. Officials say customers can still bring their mail to the post office and ask for a manual postmark if they need a day of stamp. And travelers have just 1 month left to update to the Real ID before the Transportation Security Administration imposes a new fee. Airport passengers who don't present a Real ID or other acceptable forms of identification, like a passport or a permanent residency card, will be required to pay $45 in order to fly starting February 1st. The TSA warns that air travelers could experience longer wait times if they don't have acceptable ID. Raising a child is not cheap, and in some parts of the country, parents say child care can feel like a second housing payment. A new Lending Tree study compares the cost of full-time infant care to the average two-bedroom rent in the 100 largest metro areas, and in 11 of them, child care is even higher. In this Watching Your Wallet, consumer investigator Carice Jackman looks at where costs are highest and what options families have when the bill feels overwhelming.
Every parent wants safe, reliable childcare, but for many families, that peace of mind comes with a price tag that rivals some of their biggest bills.
There are definitely places in this country where childcare is more expensive than rent. And it's a really, really tough situation because it's not like you can just cancel childcare like a Netflix subscription.
Lending Tree Chief Consumer Finance Analyst Matt Schultz led a new analysis that compares full-time, center-based infant care in the 100 largest U.S. metro areas to the cost of renting a typical two-bedroom apartment. He found infant care averages about $1,280 a month, while a two-bedroom rent averages about $1,716. But in 11 metros, childcare actually costs more than rent.
That's not necessarily the case in the big urban cities, but once you get into smaller cities and even like rural areas and that sort of thing, there's just not enough supply of childcare to meet the demand of all the families out there.
Researchers combined data from Child Care Aware of America with Federal Housing and Urban Development rent figures to map where the gap is widest. Springfield, Massachusetts tops the list for infant care costs relative to rent, followed by metros like Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Wichita, Kansas, Omaha, Nebraska, and Baltimore, Maryland.
The really good childcare places can basically charge what they want because there's so many people knocking down their door to try and get in.
If you're worried about how to afford childcare, Schultz recommends starting the conversation early, even before a baby arrives, and building those costs into your monthly budget. With this Watching Your Wallet, I'm Carice Jackman.
Online pet scams can look like legit breeders or rescues, but some are fake listings designed to take your money and then disappear. In this Watching Your Wallet, Carice Jackman shows how one man spotted the red flags and what the Better Business Bureau says you can do to help you avoid getting scammed.
Like I said, I wanted to.
When Nashville resident Jonathan King decided he wanted to buy a bull terrier, he started looking online. He found a seller claiming they had a new litter and that the dogs were registered.
They said that they were AKC, American Kennel Club certified and everything like that.
At first, he says the seller was very responsive.
He told me that it was only going to be like around $700, total of $1,700 for the purchase and vaccination of the dog.
King says he wondered why the price seemed low, but paid $700 up front as well as a $300 shipping fee. Then he says the seller started adding new fees, pushing the total well over $1,000.
$1,500 here, $1,200 here, $2,000 here. I'm like, what?
King says the messages turned into pressure to pay more. So he started verifying what he'd been sent. Using AI tools and a reverse image search, King says he found a big red flag. The same photo showed up elsewhere online. He contacted the Better Business Bureau.
When I spoke with someone, the representative from the BBB around this particular case, he was telling me that like thousands of people are getting scammed.
According to the Better Business Bureau, the number of pet scam reports have been going down, but are still an issue.
Most people are getting very savvy, though. They're realizing midway through the transaction that this isn't real.
The BBB also warns that fake pet sites and listings can show up through search results or social media and may look legit at first. If you're buying a pet online, remember this. High-pressure messages are a red flag, especially if someone claims an animal will be harmed if you don't pay. If that happens, stop and verify who you're dealing with. As for King,
so you were able to get back around $700, right? That's good news.
Yeah, I was getting the money back. The only drawback from it, though, is like I had to go through this whole situation because I had to get a new card and everything. You know how the bank does, fraud and everything like that.
He's glad he spotted the red flags before sending more money. He says he's still looking for a puppy and hopes sharing his story will help others be more cautious. With this Watching Your Wallet, I'm Carice Jackman.
A new bank rate survey finds Americans who currently have less emergency savings than they did at the start of last year are more likely to have increased credit card debt. And we're talking like 39%. In this Watching Your Wallet, consumer investigator Rachel DePompa looks at ways you can get back on track in 2026.
Just 19% of Americans say they ended 2025 with a bigger emergency savings nest egg than they had at the start of last year. Stephen Cates with Bankrate says in a bit of a bumpy year, that's positive, but he's finding higher income Americans are mostly who fall into the category. People making $100,000 a year or more. 18% of people told Bankrate they never had an emergency savings at all last year. And that typically skews to more low-income households.
They are ones who, are struggling. They are on the precipice of, any kind of, little bit of a hurdle becoming a crisis, going further into debt. Many of those people already have and are carrying debt.
Kate says they found income growth is a far better connector to someone having enough in their emergency savings, which means taking steps this year to increase your income is your best way to build up a nest egg, whether that's a new job, a new skill set you can market, a side hustle, or asking for a raise.
We're in a bit of a tricky job market right now. Hiring is very slow, but people can think about this in a long game. What are the skills that you can build today that's going to help you next year, in the next few years? Can you pick up additional work or additional hours? Can you start to scope out what a new job might look like?
He says, think of it as, how do I build the skills now to get a higher income threshold next year? And while you're doing that, making sure you are getting rid of any big debts. With this Watch in Your Wallet, I'm Rachel DePompa.
Excuse me for that. Traveling can be stressful, and so one airport is helping you decompress. Buddy, the therapy dog, greets travelers at the airport at Burlington, Vermont. Sophia Thomas shows us how he's melting hearts.
From an early wake up to getting through security, travel can really take it out of you. But a friendly face by the gates makes things a little bit better. Buddy is the kind of guy that turns heads and attracts a crowd.
Smiling too. He's happy.
Kathy Chamberlain and her 2-year-old golden retriever,
This is Buddy.
are Burlington International Airport icons. You must just nonstop get bombarded by people who
And
want
I
to
love
say
it.
hi.
I absolutely love it.
Do you think he loves it too?
I don't know. Do you love it? I think so.
The trained therapy dog started greeting flyers a year and a half ago. Chamberlain says she thought her sweet pup could help travelers decompress.
There are times when flights have been delayed and people are stressed. He'll lay down next to them and they'll just pet him, so it makes them feel so much better.
Several times a week, during especially busy hours, Chamberlain and Buddy snagged 2 seats near the gates and let the magic happen. He was so popular in the hectic days leading up to Christmas, it was hard to get a word in with Chamberlain.
Say hi. Hi, Buddy.
These Buddy fans told us the pup was a welcome surprise.
His whole purpose is to make people more comfortable today.
Does getting to pet and hang out with a puppy before you get on your flight help you feel a little better?
A little bit. He's cute, and I like dogs.
Buddy's got airport staff wrapped around his paw, too.
If you've been around this dog for any time, it makes everybody's day a lot better.
It's great. They should do more of these.
Chamberlain says some travelers just get a few pets in. Others wind up chatting with her in a moment of need.
I've met, disabled veterans who are traveling that have sat here with Buddy and just said that they had a therapy dog too and they really appreciated it. And then we start talking about the war.
That connection means just as much to Chamberlain and Buddy as it does to travelers.
You have something to say?
Chamberlain tells me there's one other therapy dog at the airport, a pup named Ellie Mae. They all look forward to helping travelers near and far feel a little less stressed during the holidays and beyond. In the studio, Sophia Thomas, Channel 3 News.
You can start the new year with the Transportation Security Administration, the TSA's cutest workers, and who knows, maybe Buddy might be in there too. The agency has unleashed its 2026 K9 calendar. The annual tradition features 13 of the TSA's more than 1,000 explosive detection dogs. One of them is the winner of last year's TSA's Cutest K9 contest. Steeler is a nearly 3-year-old Labrador Retriever who works at Pittsburgh International Airport, and here's the best thing about the calendar. It's a free download that you can find on TSA.com. And the original version of Betty Boop has entered the public domain. Here you can see the cartoon character in her original iteration from the 1930s 6-minute short Dizzy Dishes. You may notice Betty Boop looks a little different here, and that's because she was originally drawn as a human-like dog. The copyright on thousands of creations from 1930 expired on January 1st, meaning people can now use them for free and adapt them if they want to. Other pieces made public as of Thursday include the songs Georgia on My Mind and I Got Rhythm. And that wraps up the Morning Edition Extra for this January 2nd. Thank you so much for joining me this Friday morning. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you again next at noon. Have a good day.